Hey, Astro Kids, and welcome back. This is your March 2021 horoscope for all air signs. So, if you are a Gemini moon or ascendant, Libra moon or ascendant, or Aquarius moon or ascendant, this is for you. So, starting off here, as we come into the month of March, the moon will start out in the sign of Virgo. And so, coming into this, thinking in a very calculative way, looking at all of the angles, trying to come up with the solutions, this becomes a very logical moment as we are shifting into this month of March. Now, of course, the moon is shifting every 2 to 3 days. And so there are multiple positions that the moon will continue to return to. This will come all the way back through Virgo and into Scorpio as it goes through this cycle of March. And so I'm not going to cover all of these positions of the moon throughout this horoscope. We will get into that in the weekly horoscopes. But today I want to cover some of the major positions of the moon and some of the other transits that will be happening here during this month of March. Now, I also added in the three extra planets, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. That was a huge request from many of you. And so we're going to be incorporating a little bit of these energies into this as well. These, of course, are mostly used in tropical astrology, but also can be seen through Vedic astrology as lords as well. So there is this sort of outer influence from these three transpersonal planets. So we will also talk a little bit about that as well. But coming into this, Neptune is going to be in Aquarius. We are going to see Uranus is here in the sign of Aries, and Pluto is over with that stellium in Capricorn. So this is where these major energies are going to be stationed. Now, on the 5th of March, the moon is going to come into a conjunction with K2 in Scorpio, and this is happening in the Jyeshta Nakshatra. And so this is similar to what we've seen so far. Again, the moon is shifting every 2 to 3 days, but as the moon is coming into this conjunction, this really becomes about greater insight. This Jyeshta Nakshatra really pulling ideas from the deepest depths of the mind. Remember, that is a Pisces Navamsa, where it becomes all about really digging deep within the mind and pulling out that inspiration to really make changes and radical improvements within your life. So, this becomes a very deep part of the moon cycle where there's a lot of inspiration and deeper knowledge that you can gather during this time. Now, moving forward on the 9th of March, we are going to see the moon come into a conjunction here with that stellium of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. And so the moon comes to join in this powerful force here of Jupiter and Saturn. Of course, we all know that that great conjunction happened there back in December of last year. So a lot that's shifting and changing here within our world environment, and especially with Pluto in there being that planet of destruction, of breaking things down, recycling them, putting them back together. So there's a lot of change that's happening there as far as the world that we live in, the society that we live in, that is gradually changing. And the moon bringing this into our awareness for some of us as it comes into this conjunction. Now, on the 13th, we will have our new moon of the month of March happening in Aquarius in the nakshatra of Shadabasha. And so this becomes a great time to really focus in on your spiritual life. Remember that nakshatra of Shadabasha is really about your duty and your responsibility, taking the right path in life. As that nakshatra there is symbolized by the thousand petaled lotus or the thousand armies of demons. There becomes this influence here of really rising above your demons, above your shadow, right? This Aquarius sign is having a shadow aspect as it is ruled by Rahu. And so there is something huge to say here about overcoming your desires, rising above your lower nature, and really coming into your dharma, into your calling, your path during this transit. And this becomes a great time if you have not been on your path, if you've been slipping, to really get things back in order in your life during this new moon. So, around the same time that this new moon is happening, Mars is going to come closer to this Rahu position where now this is becoming more intense. Remember that Mars transit has a lot to do with Rahu, right? It's going to be in the sign of Taurus now, where it is interacting with Rahu throughout this whole month. And so, as Mars is closing in on Rahu, this influence becomes even stronger now, where this becomes a great time to really maintain discipline. Remember that Rahu and Mars are here in the sign of Taurus, where this becomes about your responsibility, your routine, your work life, going after the things that build that stable environment for you. So, Taurus, there, a little bit of a slower approach. Mars is used to that Aries push of that determination, that strength of pushing through, but Taurus really slowing this down. And so during this time, you want to be cautious of trying to push yourself to go through walls, of trying to take shortcuts. That Rahu influence has a lot to do with manipulation and taking shortcuts and getting around things on the shadow side. Rahu is, of course, the head of the serpent, where there's a lot of that cunning and manipulative ability to get around things. And so you want to keep in mind that nature of Rahu and really using Rahu in the correct way, using the higher vibration of Rahu, which really is more about the long haul, about your ambitions, your dreams, your goals. Because remember that Rahu is a friend to Saturn. This becomes about your long term goals and not trying to cheat and get around things and take these shortcuts and paths that are morally incorrect. So that becomes a huge part of this Mars transit. And of course, if you want to know more about the Mars transit coming up and how that will affect you personally for your sign, then make sure to check out that video on Mars in Taurus through all the signs. And if you are a Gemini, you want to check out part one of that Mars in Taurus video. So there are two parts to that. If you're a Libra or Aquarius, make sure to check out part two to see how this transit is affecting you. So on the 14th, the sun is going to shift into the sign of Pisces. And so now this focus of these big goals, these big ambitions and dreams, this visionary approach, right? This philanthropical approach of Aquarius is sort of shifting now, where this becomes more about your spirituality, your imagination, your intuition, right? Pisces becomes a very isolated sign, where this becomes about going deeper, going within. This deep ocean water of Pisces really pulling you into another realm, another dimension of thought. And so this is a great time for meditation. This is a great time for your spiritual practices, once again, coming off of Aquarius, but even more so to really come into a quiet space of reflection, to really tap into your inner world as we are moving forward here into this brand new position of the sun. And of course, you want to be cautious because we do have Venus with the sun, right? We're still in this combust Venus, where there is a lot here in terms of your desires. So you want to be careful of those desires that can come up. Venus is not functioning correctly. And so this can definitely give aspects of laziness, of overindulgence, of splurging. And so these are things that you want to watch out for as Venus is especially coming into its exaltation of Pisces. Venus being combust and exalted really is not the greatest combination here. Now, moving forward on the 19th of March, we are going to see the moon start to shift closer to this Mars Rahu combination. And so, with this association, this becomes even more about really having that discipline and not giving into your impulses during this time. The moon, of course, is very emotional, and this can heighten a lot of those desires, those impulses that can come up through this Mars Rahu combination. Now, moving forward on the 28th of March, we are going to have a full moon in Virgo, and this will happen in the Hasta Nakshatra. So, this becomes all about helping, about service, about your technical skills, your communication skills as you're coming into this. So, this becomes a very intellectual and very hands on approach as this moon comes in. And as this is a full moon, closing a chapter, coming to a full completion. For those of you who have been working on projects, who have been putting your energy in, this really comes full circle for you, where a lot of these crafts, these projects, these goals, these jobs involving service, involving helping others, really paying off for you during this full moon. But also, this becomes a time where you can tap more into this ability to create and to build and to work with your hands. For some of you, this means writing. For some of you, this means being more technical, more analytical as you're coming into this full moon. So, a lot of skills and talents that can come out of this particular transit. And of course, we'll talk more about that as we get into the full moon video. Our last major transit here of the month of March will be Mercury coming into the sign of Pisces. This will happen on the last day here, March 31st. Mercury is coming into its fall position. And so here, Mercury is debilitated in Pisces, where it is not happy here. Mercury, of course, is that planet of logic, of communication, of problem solving, of seeing all sides and all angles of a situation. And so as it comes into Pisces, this is where a lot of confusion can come in. These deep sea waters of Pisces don't quite jive well with this mercurial energy. So this really becomes a time of confusion, a time of not seeing things clearly, a time of communication problems that can rise up to the surface with Mercury in Pisces. Very odd type of energy where this feels a lot like trying to talk underwater, right? This really does not come across well with this particular combination. And so you just want to be cautious here of trying to figure things out logically, trying to push to get things to make sense. A lot that potentially won't make sense depending on how this is affecting your personal chart. But this really becomes a time where you want to tap into that right brain more so than the left, right? This becomes a time of imagination, of dreams, of intuition, and really trusting that intuition and not trying to overanalyze everything because Mercury really is not behaving in its fullest capacity here in the sign of Pisces. So now I'm going to go ahead and move into your individual horoscopes. So let's go ahead and take a look at those of you who have a Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant. So this is your March 2021 horoscope for those of you with a Gemini moon or Gemini ascendant. Now, coming into this, the moon is going to start out in your fourth house. And so this is a great position, feeling more homey, feeling more connected. During this time, it really can be a time of internal happiness, of internal peace, coming into a place of retreat. And so this really becomes a great time to relax and to find that peace and that true connection and happiness within. This is really a great time of meditation, of reflection, of rest, of retreat as we're starting out here in the fourth house. Now, moving ahead, of course, the moon is going to come into this association with K2, and this is happening in your sixth house, where many of you can be very analytical, very technical at this time, trying to figure out solutions. And this is where that moon in Virgo can really help you out, where making sure that you're getting the proper rest, making sure that you're cleansing and restoring yourself can really give you a sense of clarity for those of you who are going to be facing some conflicts, some problems, some disagreements. This can really help you delve deeper into this. And what a deep placement this is with Scorpio here ruling your sixth house and with K2 really in that Pisces Navamsa of this Scorpio sign along with the moon that is there. So this becomes a very deep placement where you can get a lot of deep inspiration and deep insight as to how to deal with problems, as to how to get things working and moving, as how to be more technical and analytical and to deal with certain contracts, certain disagreements that can come up. And so this becomes a great time to share your wisdom, to share your insight as it can really make a huge impact coming into this moment. This is really revolutionary as far as this placement goes. And of course, K2 has been here for a while. And so a lot of deep insight that many of you can get in terms of ultimately how to tackle problems, how to work responsibly and get things done with this deeper level of insight and awareness. So let's go ahead and move forward here as the moon comes into an association with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto on the 9th. This will happen in your eighth house. Again, there's a lot of strong ability here to deal with overcoming problems and obstacles. A lot of readjustments here that you're making in terms of this. And so this could be a time where you find yourself being more innovative, more creative, these really out of the box ways of dealing with things. There can be a lot of sudden changes and surprises that can come up that really can shift your world and that has been shifting your world for a long time now with this Jupiter Saturn activation. So, following that, we have the new moon in Aquarius. Of course, that's happening in that Shadabasha Naksatra on the 13th of March. And so this is going to be a new moon over here in your ninth house. Great time to start a new project, to start a new lesson in your life, right? To start a new class. This is a time to really craft your skills, to craft your intellect during this time. And so this could be a time where you're starting a new semester at school. This could be a time where you are wanting to learn a new language, wanting to tap into something new and beneficial in your life. A lot of things that you can start fresh from. This ninth house, really about your education, really about your belief systems, about travel. And so this is a great time where you can explore a lot of things. Now, of course, we are here in this crested time of the pandemic. But ultimately, this is still a great time to tap into your adventurous side, to be more creative, to learn something new, to gain a new skill. And this new moon really giving you great tools to do this at this time. And especially as we're going to have the Mercury influence, Neptune, a combust Venus, a lot of creative potential that you can tap into at this time. Now, after that, Mars is going to get closer to Rahu back in your 12th house. Very interesting position. A lot that you are wanting to tap into internally during this time. Again, a lot of creativity that you can really get into and a lot of intellect that you have access to now. Rahu back in that 12th house is really a peculiar placement where this really gives a strong desire to go into isolation, to tap into that imagination. And so there's a lot of deep insight, again, that you can really tap into at this time, going off of that K2 that is sitting there in your sixth house. And so as Mars moves closer to this becomes a great placement of really being able to tap into those deeper parts of the mind and really gather deeper insight and inspiration, right? Using your imagination, using your creative side, tapping into your dream world. This is very great. And so during this time, this is a great time for you to go into meditation. Again, coming off of that moon in your fourth house, going inward, self reflecting, tapping into that inner insight, that inner wisdom within. A lot of that can give you greater insight as to the things that you want to create and build and work on during this time. And with Mars coming into this, you do want to be cautious of this desire to retreat or this desire to be alone or be in private. A lot of things that you can do in secret that are not necessarily healthy for you. So you want to be cautious of any kind of overindulgence or any kind of self harm that you could potentially be doing in secret. Now, next transit here is the sun shifting into the sign of Pisces. So, this is a great position for you. The sun, which is with Venus, so this combust Venus moving into your 10th house. And this really becomes a great time for you to tap into your creative gifts, your creative abilities and talents, especially as this is Venus that is going to be exalted with the sun. Gives you tremendous amount of power, again, to tap into those creative skills. Now, you do want to be careful here, though, because Venus is not functioning correctly. And so this could potentially make you lazy in your career, in the things that you're building and working on. You want to make sure that you're continuing to stay motivated, continuing to stay on task, and a lot of these projects and these things that you are trying to build up will really start to take off over time if you're continuing to maintain that discipline. Again, there's a lot here in terms of really this feeling like this could be a time of laziness or a time of detachment if you are not fully using this energy properly. Again, Venus really is not in a good position in this combustion. And so this can give you some potential problems. Now let's go ahead and move forward here to the moon shifting closer to this conjunction of Mars and Rahu. Again, a lot of creative potential that you can get from this, a lot of deeper insight. The moon is in a really psychic placement as it comes into the 12th. And so this is a really great time for you to tap into your inspiration, into your inner knowing, and not to let yourself be overly analytical and caught up into trying to figure out everything. There's a lot that is actually coming towards you during this time that can help you to really move up, that can help you to really be more creative, more expressive, more innovative during this time. Following that, we have a full moon in Virgo. So, again, that energy of your fourth house is being activated. And so there's a lot here that you can gain in terms of going inward. Again, similar to what we said earlier, there's a lot of technical skills, a lot of analytical skills, a lot of insight and understanding of how you can make things work in your life that comes out of this deep reflection and going within that many of you are being strongly called to do. Last transit here on the 31st, the Mercury in Pisces. This is Mercury shifting into your 10th house. Again, your career life being activated, your status, right? The things that you're trying to achieve and gain in life, a lot that you can really work towards with Mercury here. Now, you want to be careful though, because Mercury brings in a changing energy, and this is your ruler. And so, this is really great for those of you who are more creative, who are more inspirationally inclined. This could be a bit of a challenge for those of you, though, who have to follow a specific routine. There can be a lot of fluctuation as Mercury comes into the 10th. But ultimately, this gives you a lot of intellect to work with, a lot of creativity, a lot of greater insight and technical skills that you can really apply towards your career, towards your status, towards the image that you're trying to build up. So, this really becomes a great time to succeed in a lot of different areas if you are diligent, if you're staying true to your task and your responsibilities. And most of all, if you're taking that time to yourself to really go inward and tap into that greater wisdom and insight in that quiet space, in that place of going deep within. So let's go ahead and talk about these cards that came up for those of you with a Gemini ascendant or Gemini moon. Now, I did use the Vedic Oracle deck by Joanne Victoria. And so this is a new deck that I will go into in a future video, but just to give you a bit of a sneak peek here of what we're working with. And I absolutely love this deck. We're going to be working more with this moving forward as this is geared specifically towards Vedic astrology. But it also includes those 3 extra planets, which is also very cool as well. So the first card that comes up here for you is the ninth house. And so this becomes, again, a time to focus on learning, on creating, on building, on looking for new opportunities. A lot here that you can gain as far as learning, as far as being more adventurous, more open to different ideas, and really tapping into that at this time. There's a lot here that can happen as far as your education, as far as your growth moving forward that you can achieve. Now, the fifth house is also here as well. So, again, huge influence of education. That fifth house is also tied to education as well. And so this really becomes a time here where many of you can learn a new skill, you can graduate. There could be some major success here as far as your education life. This also becomes a great time again to be creative, to work on some projects. This becomes a huge theme here. And with the Ardra Nakshatra, this is awesome. This Ardra Nakshatra is within Gemini, and it is all about building the perfection, right? Integrating the skills to build something beautiful, something perfect, something that is a masterpiece. And so, again, a lot here that you can build and create from your skills, from your creativity, from your imagination. And so, really trusting and tuning into your intuition and your intellect at this time with this fourth house activation and this 12th house activation becomes a huge thing here. Really going in, looking inward in towards your intellect and your educational skills and applying this to create something beautiful. And this is where this next card of Uranus or Lord Brahma comes in, where this becomes about this creative spark, right? This ability to create something unexpected, something that is beautiful, something that is pure creation. And so at this time, you have this potential to really bring something beautiful, a masterpiece into existence. But again, you have to stay true to your path. The next card here being the sun, you really have to stay true to your path, your identity, your career, your efforts. This is a time where you want to really tap into that vital energy, that willpower to stay true to the things that you want to achieve. And a lot of success that can come from this. Our next card, last card here being the 11th house, is all about gains. And so this is a time where you can gain a lot from these things that you're creating and building. And of course, Uranus is there in your 11th house where you can get unexpected gains out of these ideas and this information that you're gathering when you're in this place of going inward. So this becomes a huge part of your journey here in the month of March. So that was your horoscope for March 2021 for Gemini Ascendant or Gemini Moon. Let's go ahead and shift ahead here to those of you with a Libra Moon or Libra Ascendant. So, if you have a Libra moon or Libra ascendant, this is for you. And starting off here, we have the moon back in your 12th house. And so, this is a time where you are more inward, more reflective. There's a lot of great insight that you can pull out of the subconscious at this time. So this becomes quite the psychic and inspirational time for you to really tap into those deeper parts of your mind and to pull out more information, more creative potential. Again, similar to Gemini, where there's a lot here that you can really bring out to the surface from the deepest parts of the mind. And a lot of subconscious work that you can be doing here, where you can really be diving deep into your subconscious and working on your shadow side, working through the subconscious issues and baggage that can potentially be here as well. Now, following this, the moon is coming into this association with Ketu over in your second house. And so this becomes all about your work life, your discipline, your responsibility to your family, your commitment, your values. This becomes a huge part of your life. And so there's a lot here in terms of needing to stay disciplined and committed to the task, needing to stay on top of things. And so this is a time where you can be very much a powerhouse of really getting things done and really working towards wealth and security. This becomes a huge part of your life at this time. And especially with Moon and K2 here, there are a lot of deep transformations that you can experience through this connection to your family, to this connection to your beliefs, to your values, to your tradition, to your responsibility. A lot that can come up here in terms of really going deeper and rediscovering things that you didn't see before. You can gather family secrets from your ancestral line. There's a lot that can come up here. This also, though, becomes a time where you may be very protective over your family, with the moon in Scorpio being in its debilitation. There can be a lot of strong emotional attachment and a desire to protect. With K2 there, of course, K2 exalted fully in Scorpio, being about the secrets, the mysteries. And so there's a lot here in terms of a deeper commitment or a deeper connection to family and wanting to protect and wanting to keep things private, to really go in and have that deeper, more profound connection to those closest to you. So on the 9th, the moon is going to shift over into the association with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. And so again, the home becomes a huge part of this transit for you, where you may be more secretive, more reflective, more turn inward during this month of March, where you're really focused in on your inner connection, right? You're more focused in on your mind and really tapping into your deeper emotions. Your happiness, your inner peace becomes a huge part of this. And ultimately, this is something that's transforming and changing for you. Again, a lot that can change and shift as far as family life, a lot that can come up as far as you going inward and transforming within yourself during this time through your family, which can really have a profound impact on your calling, your destiny, your purpose. So there's a lot here in terms of this individual journey that you can be going on at this time that can really bring you more in tune with your path, your calling. Now, moving forward here, we do have a new moon in Aquarius in the nakshatra of Shadabasha. And so this is a new moon happening in your fifth house. And so this really becomes a time where you can be tapping into your creativity. You can be tapping into your connection with children. For some of you, you may be having children, or you may feel this closer connection to your children. There's something big here about children for many of you here with a Libra moon or Libra ascendant. But this is really a time to get in tune with your inner child, to get in tune with your creative abilities, and really for some of you starting a new project, working on something new. Again, for some of you, this could actually be giving birth, right? This could be a time of actually having children. But there is something big here to say about creativity that comes up here with this new moon, where you can be working on a new project, you can be learning a new skill. So, this is a huge time where you can use those creative talents and abilities. And again, for some of you, if you are having a child or if you are feeling closer to your child, this is where that protective factor of this moon conjunct K2 in that second house can really come in as well. So moving forward here on the 14th, the sun is going to shift into the sign of Pisces. And so the sun is shifting over into your sixth house, where now the focus becomes upon your task and responsibilities in life, taking care of your daily routine, taking care of your health, taking care of the things that really need to get done. And so any kind of problems or complications that come up, you have this strong ability to deal with this very easily. The sun here activating this leadership, this authority to stand up and take control of the situations that need that work and responsibility really comes into focus here. Now, moving forward here on the 19th, the moon is coming into that association with Mars and K2. And so this is coming into your eighth house, where again, there's a lot here about transformation, about secrets. There is something huge here where many of you are having your whole life transformed through this experience. And this is something where this can transform your family, this can transform you at a deeper level. There's something new that's happening here with your family and your security as a whole. And really, this desire to really come into a deeper place where you're more secretive, you're more so going inward and connecting and going deeper into this place of transformation, into this place of power. And this eighth house also becomes about intimacy. There is something to say also about having a deeper connection, having a deeper emotional connection during this time that becomes huge with the moon and Mars in there that are very much emotional planets. That Mars being more of a hotter emotional planet and the moon being more sensitive. But there is something big here about, for some of you, if you're trying to protect your family, you're trying to protect someone closest to you, you're trying to get deeper into a connection, something big here that is along those lines. And for some of you, this could also be a time where you're looking to invest, you're looking to gain money or to gain resources or support through those closest to you. Now, moving forward on the 28th, we have a full moon in Virgo. So, this is a full moon in the Hasta Nakshatra, also taking place back in that 12th house again. And so, back to where we started here in this month of March, we are having a full closure of this energy here as we have a full moon back in that 12th house. Again, a lot of deeper insight, a lot of deeper inspiration that can come through. This can be a lot that you're gaining from being more inward, more reflective, more private during this time, going inward and having that sense of deeper intuition, that isolation. For some of you, there is a huge focus on isolating, on protecting, on going inward. This feels like you are submerged into another world, and so there's something big here about a responsibility, about a task, about a duty that takes you into a completely different realm of thinking. Now, last transit here taking place on the 31st is Mercury entering into Pisces. And so now Mercury is shifting ahead into your sixth house. And so, again, there's a huge focus on your responsibility, on your task, where you're becoming more meticulous, more detailed, more technical. There's a lot here where you are very much building around a schedule and focusing on panning out all the details, on figuring out how to deal with conflicts or coming up with solutions to what you are working towards at this time. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the cards that came up. And I did pull here from the Vedic Oracle deck by Joanne Victoria, which we will talk about more in the future, getting into my review of this, but this will be a bit of a sneak peek here as we get into this. The first card that comes up is the Bharani Nakshatra, which remember is a very creative nakshatra that falls in the sign of Aries. And so there is something big here about this spark of newness that is coming in, this new part of your life that's being activated through a creative force. Again, for some of you, you may be giving birth with that new moon that's sitting there in your fifth house of children. For some of you, you may just feel closer to your children. For some of you, you are working on a project, building something new. This element of creativity and newness starts to come in here for many of you here with a Libra ascendant or Libra moon. Our next card here is Aquarius. And so this is a time of, again, feeling like you are sort of leaving behind your normal way of living or your normal way of being. There's something big here where you are detaching and doing something different your whole life. The direction of the way that things are going are shifting for you, where you're doing things differently now. You're thinking more outside of the box. You're coming up with greater ways of handling and doing things. And this becomes about service. So you are, in a way, helping others or helping a cause during this time as well. The next card here is Shadabasha, which of course is that nakshatra that is all about your duty, your responsibility, rising above that lower nature to fulfill your spiritual duties in life. And so, here again, there is something big to say about your responsibility and a lot of responsibility coming in karmically, where this is a destined responsibility based upon where you are in your life. And so, for some of you, a new responsibility, a new task, something new here to work on that has come into your focus, into your awareness, where it's really allowing you to tap into a different side of you that is more leader like. Again, the sign of Leo's here, where there's something big to say about the sun that's shifting over here into your sixth house, where you're starting to tap into leadership skills in a way to deal with these responsibilities, to deal with this area where you have to think differently, where you have to handle things differently. And so, really stepping up to the call and taking on that responsibility, taking on that position, that role of authority becomes a huge focus as you're shifting here into the month of March. Now, the next card that comes up is the eighth house. Again, this is a huge central focus for many of you as well, but there's something big here about this experience that is transforming your life, right? That eighth house becomes all about transformation, and especially with Rahu in there, with the moon in there, with Mars, where there's a lot of impulsiveness, there's a lot of fast paced changes and sporadic things that can happen during this time. And so there's a lot that is shifting and changing for many of you as you are moving ahead here, where you're going through these experiences that are completely transforming your entire life. And for some of you, this also becomes a very secretive house where you're doing things in secret, you're doing things more in private. And so, again, this can really apply for those of you who are, again, dealing with a connection to a child where you might be more protective now. You might want to keep things more private. And this depth this deeper connection really coming into focus. For some of you, this could also be a time where you're thinking about dabbling into occult knowledge, into esoteric knowledge. You are thinking about different sort of eccentric topics during this time. Now, the next card that comes up is the Denisha Nakshatra. Again, huge focus on discipline. That Denisha Nakshatra becomes about marching to the beat of your own drum, but it's also about following your karmic duty and responsibility, right? Which is why we say it's about marching to the beat of your own drum, following your own individual calling and path. And so there is something big here again about this destined or karmic responsibility that is coming into the forefront for many of you as you're here in the month of March. The last card here is Scorpio, very similar to that eighth house, as Scorpio is the original eighth house of the zodiac. And so, again, there is this protective instinct that is there for many of you, where you're thinking about protecting those in your family or thinking about protecting a child, something along those lines. But this becomes a time where you are really thinking about connecting deeper, being more protective, being more invested at this time in your connections. And again, this can also be a time where you're going through immense transformation where different areas of your life are transforming. You're being pulled into different responsibilities, different tasks at this time, a time where you have to be more willful, more determined. Again, with that Leo card in there, this becomes a very interesting time. And notice that there are three fixed signs here. And so this really becomes a time where you have to be more fixed, right? You have to tap more into that willpower, that assertion, that commitment, that ability to stay disciplined and focused. This really becomes a huge part of March for those of you with a Libra moon or Libra ascendant. So let's go ahead and move forward here to those of you with an Aquarius moon or Aquarius ascendant. So if you have an Aquarius moon or Aquarius ascendant, this is for you. And on the first, the moon is going to shift into Virgo, which is sitting there in your sixth house. And so there becomes a focus here on responsibility, on duties, on tasks, on handling conflicts. And so this really becomes a time where it is time to step up more, time to follow your task and be more disciplined and more detailed and more structured and organized in your life at this time. And so this really becomes a time where focusing on the details, managing things correctly becomes a huge focus. And of course, this is going to sit opposite to that 12th house. So you really want to make sure that you are focused and honed in on the things that you really want to work on and be involved in during this time. That becomes a huge focus for many of you. And I'm sorry, this is in your eighth house. So this really becomes, again, about focusing on tasks, on difficulties where you're stepping up your responsibility. So let's go ahead and move forward here to those who have a moon conjunct K2 that is happening here in your 10th house. So again, the duty, the status, the commitment becomes a huge part of this where you're having to deal with conflicts more, you're having to deal with responsibility more. Again, that eighth house is being activated there where there is a lot here in terms of those tasks and responsibilities that have to be dealt with, adjustments that have to be made, right? Where you really have to be more in tune with your authority, your leadership, with this activation of your 10th house and really going deeper into that. This is K2, right? Where there is something big here about your karmic responsibility, where Rahu is there in your fourth house, where you want to detach, you want to go inward, but there's something here that's spiritually drawing you forward into your career, into your task, into your responsibility, into that position of leadership. And so you want to listen to your inner voice. You want to listen to this wisdom that is coming up through K2 to really push you in that position where you're able to deal with crisis, able to deal with conflict, able to take on these responsibilities. Moving forward here on the 13th, we have a new moon in Aquarius. This is happening in the Shadabasha Nakshatra. So this is happening in your first house, where this becomes a whole new beginning of your life in general. And so a lot of things can come of this, right? Where this is activating your entire house, where there can be multiple different possibilities, whether this is a new job, a new career, new finance that's coming in, a new relationship. But ultimately, this new moon becomes a point where you feel like you are shifting in a new direction. And this new moon, of course, is going to aspect over to that seventh house, where this can also affect the people around you. So, for those of you in a relationship, those of you who are committed to others, they can feel this pull where you are shifting into a brand new direction, where you're having to step up to a new call. And so, this becomes a huge focus here. Now, also around the same time, Mars will come into a conjunction with Rahu. And so this is Mars coming closer over to Rahu there in your fourth house, where again, there is this desire to detach, to go inward, to come into the home. Now, you want to make sure that you're dealing with your outward tasks and responsibilities. For those of you who are wanting to detach, wanting to disconnect, wanting to go into the home, bringing that leadership and authority into the home, right? This becomes a huge focus here because you're in this position of leadership and authority. And so for many of you, you are behaving the same in your work life as you are in your home. Mars is ultimately controlling your 10th house. And so there is a lot here in terms of leadership and power dynamics that can play out, where you want to be a little bit careful of bringing all of that authority back into your home life. There can be a lot of things that play out around your connection to those closest to you. Now, let's go ahead and move forward with the sun shifting into Pisces on the 14th. And so the sun is going to shift over into your second house. Again, family is starting to become a huge focus here as you are taking on this new direction coming off of this new moon. And so you want to make sure that you're taking care of your responsibilities, that you're taking care of your home life, that you're taking care of those closest to you. This becomes a huge central focus. And of course, there's a lot of unexpected things that can happen in the home with Uranus there in your third house, a lot that can sort of shift and change with your siblings, with those closest to you. And so you really want to make sure that you're paying attention to this interaction between your career and your home life and sort of balancing this out, right? There's a reason why K2 is there in your 10th house, where this really becomes about tapping more into your karma, into your previous life, and using that knowledge to move towards your purpose, towards your destiny, towards your responsibility. And so many of you can feel this push, can feel this movement in this new direction here as we're moving ahead. Now, on the 19th, the moon is going to join in with this Mars and Rahu party in your fourth house. And so, again, this becomes even more apparent about this needing to follow what makes you happy, needing to follow your ultimate destiny in life. Your duty, your dharma becomes a huge focus for many of you here with Aquarius moon or Aquarius ascendant. Now, on the 28th, there will be a full moon in the Hasta Nakshatra happening in your eighth house. So, this becomes a very interesting placement where a lot of unexpected results can come in, right? You can see a lot of unexpected success that comes into your life. And this becomes a time where you really are not knowing what to expect, as there's a lot that's sort of pulling you karmically towards your path, your calling. And so, again, for those of you who have conformed to a typical job or a typical life that isn't built for your purpose, you may feel that shift where it is taking you towards your destiny, taking you towards your calling. Now, here on the 31st, we have our last major transit as Mercury shifts into your second house. And so your speech becomes a huge part of this, using your communicative and technical skills to get things done, right? Speaking out the things that you want to achieve in your life and really using that to create the success that you want and remaining confident in yourself, remaining confident in this new calling, this new path, this new way of life that you're feeling drawn and pulled towards really becomes a huge thing here. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the cards that came up for you, Aquarius. And I did pull from the Vedic Oracle deck by Joanne Victoria. And so we're going to talk about this a little bit more as I go into the review of these cards. But the first card that comes up here is the third house. And so again, that communication aspect becomes a huge part of your life at this time, where this becomes all about using your voice, using your intellect, using your creative skills, using your communication skills to really tap into the things that you want to achieve. That really is a huge focus. And so, again, we're going to talk more about these cards by Julia and Victoria as we move forward here. But this is really a great interpretation of this card. There's a lot here in terms of using your courage, using your words to speak out, to do the things that you want to achieve and accomplish, and doing it in your own way. The next card here is your very own card, Aquarius, right? Going after your purpose, your dream in life, and really staying true to that. And being true to yourself is ultimately going to follow your karmic duty. Our next card here is that Shadabashad Nakshatra, which becomes about overcoming your lower nature and tapping into that karmic duty. And of course, this falls within your very own sign of Aquarius. So, this really is a great time to tap into your leadership skills, to tap into your determination, to tap into your true skills and ability to move forward towards your destiny, towards your purpose once again. So that was your horoscope for Aquarius moon or Aquarius ascendant. And this was your March 2021 horoscope for all air signs. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you like this video, feel free to leave a thumbs up as well as a comment. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new content coming up here in the future. If you are interested in learning more in depth about Vedic astrology, I am offering a course which is available in the Facebook group Astrology Lessons with Daquan Jones and on the Patreon page. I will keep you updated when this becomes available on Udemy as well. And the links for all of that is down below in the description along with the comments. If you have any suggestions of anything that you'd like me to talk about regarding Vedic astrology, feel free to let me know. And I hope you all have a great day. I will see you in the next video.